Hey everybody, welcome back to World History class with Mr. Finn. A little bit different venue, but we are still on track. We are talking today about the first triumvirate. We are getting to a point here in 60 BC, where we are seeing Marius and Sulla had their civil war. That Marius and Sulla, just so you can have it here, the Marius versus Sulla, so we have a timeline for chronological order, is going to happen, it's going to end around 82 BC. So from 82 to 60, we're looking at just over 20 years. And we have Pompey, Crassus, and Caesar come together to make a triumvirate. There are three people here, and tri, the prefix, means three. So, makes sense here. We have a first triumvirate, Pompey, Crassus, and Caesar. They look at the model Marius and Sulla had. They said, well, Marius and Sulla had their own militaries. However, they had to fight it out. There was a civil war between the two of them. Both wanted power. But if we have three, let me get my marker out of my thing. If we have three people, we're less likely to have a breakdown. We can work together. We can balance the power a little bit. And that's the idea of having a triumvirate. And we have these three people. So who are these three people is what we'll first look at. Pompey is going to be a famous general. He was a famous general. He had taken over a lot of areas. Romans loved the idea of expanding Rome and the power of Rome. And every military victory Pompey would get, he would get more famous, more popular. People would love him. And so Pompey is going to be very rich and wealthy. He's a famous general who has led many campaigns. His men, he provides land for them. So he has essentially loyalty of his own army. So he is extraordinarily popular. And that's really, again, how these men are going to gain power. They get the loyalty of the men who fight on their side militarily, and that's how they continue to have power. So Pompey is a famous general. Crassus. Crassus is the richest man in Rome. And that means he is extra rich. Just think Crassus, richest man in Rome. I'm going to put the money sign here, right by his name. He is super rich if you're the richest man in Rome. So he has extraordinary power. However, he still wants to be viewed as a military leader because, again, that's how Romans viewed their people in charge. Hey, have you led the military? Do you have an army? That's how it's really a strong man's game. So even though he has all this money, he still has his military. He has his, he goes on campaigns to try and fight and expand Rome and enlarge it because that's, again, how you get popular. So it's like, yeah, it's great I have all this money, but I need people to love me and be popular and be out there and everything else. Which brings us to Caesar, who's the third person in this triumvirate. And he doesn't really fit the same mold at first. Caesar is really popular really for being in Rome. One of the big things he does, it's popular for games, like the idea of putting on huge events, spending a lot of money. People know his name, like, these games were put on by Caesar. Caesar's running for, the head priest of Rome, like just random little things like that where people's name, his things people liked, his name was associated with it. And so he becomes very popular. However, he had not up until this point been on major campaigns and being generals and taking over things. He wasn't the richest person in Rome. In fact, Caesar actually borrowed tons of money to gain this popularity. And once he did, he got political office and then could pay people back. And he was fine, but he wasn't independently wealthy at the time. He becomes obviously super rich once he gets going, but he had a little bit of a different path to this. Caesar will end up with his army. He's gonna, he gets money, and has his men, and has his own army. He's going to go to a place called Gaul. Crassus is going to be in Syria. Pompey's going to be in Spain, and we'll look at this next class. What happens with these men? But the important thing to understand is that we have gone from Marius and Sulla having a civil war and buying their own military to these three men coming together to basically control Rome. These are the men. And right now there are three. What happens when it gets down to two? When we have two, we sometimes have fighting. Right now we have three, so everything's kind of balanced out. But we'll look next time at what happens in this. In order to get to that point, you do have an assignment today. Your assignment is 2 fun facts on each man, Pompey, Crassus, and Caesar. Give me 2 fun facts. Find something out about them. This is just an idea. This is just an assignment so that you can get used to, you know, who are these people? Is there anything interesting about them? I want to have a clue about something about them as we go into next class where we really break down what happens with these three guys and the story of the first triumvirate. So on that note, make sure you get this to me today. These 2 fun facts. Pretty easy thing. Just look it up. Type in Pompey's name in Google. So, I mean, you can really say first triumvirate Pompey. Type that in. You're going to find a lot of information. So I only need 2 things from him, 2 things for Crassus, and 2 things for Caesar. Tell me what you find. And then when we get to next class, we're off and running. We can see the outcome of these three men. So great job, everyone. Just make sure you get that to me today for participation and attendance purposes. And I will see you next class.